Something happened, a father's 5 words silencing an entire television studio, leaving even Dr. Phil speechless. The air crackled with tension, a confession so raw it stopped time. Cameras rolled, but the world held its breath. What unfolded next became one of the most heart-wrenching, unforgettable moments in Dr. Phil's history. 2 days earlier, the Henderson family arrived at the studio, their story seemingly ordinary. A family of 3 middle-class, no glaring issues, just the usual struggles. A distant teenager, strained communication, and a marriage under pressure. Sarah Henderson had reached out to the show, desperate for help with their 16-year-old daughter Emma, who'd grown cold and withdrawn. Michael, the father, joined reluctantly, his demeanor guarded. The producers saw nothing unusual during the intake. No addiction, no abuse, just a family fraying at the edges. They booked them for a Tuesday taping, expecting a routine episode. As the family stepped onto the stage, the setup felt familiar. Sarah sat to the right, Michael to the left, Emma between them, her arms crossed, eyes glued to the floor. Dr. Phil launched in with his trademark bluntness. What's really tearing this family apart? Sarah spoke first, her voice steady but heavy, describing Emma's plummeting grades, her refusal to engage, her emotional retreat. The audience nodded along, typical teenage rebellion, they assumed. But Dr. Phil's gaze lingered on Emma, sensing something unspoken. "Emma," he said, his tone softening, "your silence is louder than words. What's weighing on you that no one's hearing?" Emma's jaw clenched. Her mother reached out, but Emma recoiled, her body rigid. The studio stirred, sensing a shift. This wasn't just defiance. It was pain, raw and unspoken. "They don't remember," Emma whispered, her voice so faint the microphone strained to catch it. "What don't they remember, Doctor?" Phil pressed, his eyes locked on her. Emma's gaze flicked to her father, piercing. The day it all changed. Michael's face drained of color. Sarah frowned, bewildered. The audience leaned forward, the air thick with anticipation. Dr. Phil's instincts kicked in. He raised a hand, halting the show. "Hold the tape," he said, his voice slicing through the studio. Producers exchanged stunned glances. Dr. Phil never paused a taping unless something was gravely wrong. The room fell deathly silent. He stepped to the stage's edge, addressing his team directly. "Everyone, take a breath. Whatever's coming, we handle it with care." Turning back to the family, he fixed his gaze on Michael. "Do you know what she's talking about?" Michael's hands trembled. He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. 15 agonizing seconds of silence, stretched like eternity. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely audible. "I wasn't there that day." 5 words, and the studio froze. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Emma's eyes brimmed with tears. The audience sat paralyzed, grasping that something profound had just shattered the surface, though its shape was still unclear. Dr. Phil eased back into his chair, his voice dropping to a rare, unguarded tone. No trace of showmanship, just human connection. "Michael, what day are we talking about?" Michael's voice cracked. "Her championship game 3 years ago. She was the starting pitcher. I swore I'd be there." "Doctor." Phil's eyes narrowed. "But you weren't." Michael's head bowed. "I was at a work conference in Chicago. I told myself it was critical, that there'd be other games." What Michael didn't know, what no one had told him, was that Emma had pitched a perfect game that day. 9 innings, not a single hit. A feat that drew college scouts, and left her teammates hoisting her in triumph. Yet when she searched the stands for her father, the seats were empty. Sarah's voice broke through, stunned. "Michael, you said you went. You told me you left the conference early." Michael's whisper was barely audible. "I lied. I stayed for the networking, the cocktails. I chose my career over my daughter." Emma's voice, steady despite her tears, cut through the silence. "I pitched the game of my life. Scouts were watching. My team carried me off the field. And when I looked for you, Dad, you weren't there." The audience sat gripped, some wiping tears. Dr. Phil, a father himself, absorbed the weight of her words, his expression shifting from therapist to something deeper, more human. "Michael," he said, his voice firm but not cruel, "do you hear what you just admitted? Do you understand what your choice told your daughter? I ruined everything." Michael murmured, his voice breaking, "No, Doctor," Phil countered sharply. "You made a choice, and that choice spoke to Emma." "What did it say, Emma?" She turned to her father, her words piercing. "That I wasn't worth it, that your job mattered more than me, that I wasn't enough." Sarah, sobbing now, turned to Michael. "Why didn't you tell me? Why hide it for 3 years?" Michael's voice was raw. "Because I was ashamed. I saw her pulling away, shutting me out, and I knew it was my fault. I just didn't know how to fix it, Doctor." Phil stood again, his presence commanding. "Hold on." He signaled offstage, "Bring me the envelope." A production assistant hurried forward with a sealed manila envelope. Dr. Phil held it briefly, then handed it to Michael. "Before you came here, Emma gave us permission to contact her old coach. Open it." Michael's hands shook as he tore it open. Inside were photographs. Emma mid-pitch, her focus fierce. Emma lifted high by her teammates. Emma clutching a trophy. "And a letter, read it aloud." "Doctor," Phil instructed gently. Michael's voice trembled as he read. "To whom it may concern, Emma Henderson pitched the most extraordinary game I've seen in 30 years of coaching. Her skill was matched only by her grace under pressure. When asked who she dedicated the win to, she said, 'My dad, even though he couldn't be here.' That's the kind of person she is, someone worth showing up for. Coach Martinez." The studio erupted in emotion. Audience members wept openly. Sarah gripped Emma's hand, and Michael sat clutching the photographs, the weight of his absence crashing over him. Dr. Phil's voice softened. "Michael, you can't undo that day. You can't pitch that perfect game with her, but you can choose what happens next." Michael's voice broke. "I don't know how to fix this, Doctor." Phil's response was unflinching. "You can't fix it. You can only face it. Emma, what do you need from your father?" Emma met her father's eyes, her voice steady. "I need him to stop acting like it didn't matter. I need him to admit it broke something between us. And I need to know that if I do something important again, he'll choose me." Then came the moment no one expected. "Doctor," Phil stood, addressing the studio. "I'm doing something rare. I'm asking our audience and crew to give this family privacy. Please step out for 10 minutes while they talk without cameras." The audience filed out quietly. The crew lowered their equipment. Dr. Phil led the Hendersons to a private room backstage. For 10 minutes, no cameras recorded, no microphones listened. When they returned, something had shifted. Michael and Emma sat closer, not touching. But the invisible wall between them had cracked. Dr. Phil faced the returning audience. "Healing doesn't happen in a single moment. It's built through countless small choices. To show up, to be honest, to choose connection over convenience." He turned to Michael. "Your homework is simple. Every week ask Emma what's important to you. Whether it's a test, a game, or a quiet moment with a friend, you show up not just physically but with your heart. You choose her." Michael nodded, tears streaming. "I will. I swear." Dr. Phil's response was blunt. "Promises are worthless. Presence is everything. Don't tell her, show her." He handed Emma a card from his pocket. "This is the number for a family therapist I trust. The real work starts when the cameras stop." To the audience he added, "What you saw today isn't about perfection. It's about truth. This father failed to show up when it mattered most, but he showed up today. That's where healing begins, with the courage to admit what you've broken and the resolve to rebuild it, step by step." The episode's impact rippled far beyond that day. When it aired, the Dr. Phil show was flooded with over 50 messages from viewers, fathers confessing to missing their children's milestones, adult children recounting the games, recitals, and graduations their parents skipped. Emma's perfect game, captured on school video, went viral. Sports networks replayed it, sparking a national conversation about parental presence and priorities. The phrase "I wasn't there that day" became a cultural shorthand for the pain of emotional absence. 6 months later, the Hendersons returned for a follow-up. The change was striking. Michael and Emma sat side by side, no longer distant. Michael shared that he'd attended every one of Emma's events, since the taping softball games, school presentations, Even a poetry reading she'd been nervous about. Emma spoke, her voice strong. "Backstage, Doctor. Phil asked what I really wanted. I said I wanted my dad back. Not the one who makes promises, but the one who shows up, and he has. Every single time." "Doctor," Phil nodded. "This is accountability. Not perfection, but presence." The photographs from the envelope now hung framed in the Henderson home, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof of what honesty could rebuild. The day everything changed wasn't the perfect game. It was the day Michael owned his failure. 3 years later, the story's impact endured. Emma earned a full athletic scholarship to UCLA, where she continued pitching. Michael became her fiercest supporter, attending every home game and video, calling for away games. During Emma's first college championship, as she took the mound for the final inning, she glanced at the stands. Michael was there, holding a sign, "I choose you." Emma later said that moment healed more than any therapy ever could. Sarah, too, found healing. "I enabled his absence," she admitted in a follow-up call with Dr. Phil. "I made excuses because facing the truth was harder. We both had to change." The episode became a cornerstone in family therapy programs, used to illustrate ambiguous loss, the grief children feel when parents are physically present but emotionally absent. Therapists adopted "I wasn't there that day" as a shorthand for the lasting wounds of parental neglect. Dr. Phil reflected on the episode in later interviews. "Some moments stay with you. Michael's confession was one, not for its drama, but for its honesty. Change begins there." The Hendersons used the therapist's number Dr. Phil provided, attending weekly sessions for 18 months. They learned to communicate, rebuilt trust, and created rituals prioritizing presence over productivity. Michael's career transformed too. 6 months after the show, he left his corporate job for consulting work from home. "I was climbing a ladder propped against the wrong wall," he said. "I built a career at my family's expense. That day, I became the father I should have been." Emma carried the photographs from the envelope to every game, a reminder not of loss but of redemption through courage. 5 years later, the story's final chapter unfolded. Emma graduated from UCLA with academic and athletic honors. At her graduation, she invited Dr. Phil. He sat beside Michael and Sarah watching Emma cross the stage. In her valedictorian speech, she spoke of second chances and the bravery to rebuild what's broken. She never named the episode, but those who knew the story understood. After the ceremony, Dr. Phil pulled Michael aside. "You did it. You showed up." Michael's reply was simple. "I show up every day now. That's what fathers do." The envelope, the photographs, the confession, they led to this. A daughter who believed in redemption because her father proved change was possible. Healing didn't come from one televised moment, but from 1,000 quiet choices showing up, choosing love, prioritizing presence. Every year, on the anniversary of her perfect game, Michael texts Emma, "I choose you today. I choose you tomorrow. I choose you always." That's the legacy of the day everything changed.